Okay, I gotta get a rant out. So, in the last 5 days in Alberta, two events have happened with regards to people who are questioning government restrictions and lockdowns for the pandemic, the extent of it, and really think that the government's overreaching and stepping on individual rights. I'll start with the first one. Well, it happened second, but the good one. Last night, Danielle Smith had a 2-hour interview with David Redman, who used to be the Alberta emergency planning head. And that was put on the Western Standard channel. So if you look up on YouTube, it's well worth a watch. Redman put on a great presentation on the exaggerations of pandemic infections, death rates, and the foolishness of lockdowns and the ineffective nature of a lot of them. That was put together again with Rally for Resources was a group that helped get that together, and Alberta Blue Skies, and of course the Western Standard and Danielle. So it was a really productive 2 hours going through a lot of stats and facts to show that these lockdowns, these restrictions, these soul-crushing, gathering bans, and business-crushing ones are not effective. They're doing more harm than good. And that was a great way to get that messaging out there to the public, get people to realize, come on guys, we got a real problem here. The other event was an anti-lockdown rally in Edmonton. And this is where I've got some Twitter clowns swarming me. One guy even inviting me for a fight. Anonymous accounts are the toughest of them all. Either way, because I called out that Edmonton anti-lockdown rally because they blew it. They screwed it right up. They made a mess of it. They got it labeled as an extremist rally. I don't doubt that the majority of the people attending that were not racists. They had no intention of putting across that kind of messaging. They were there out of lockdown concerns, but it doesn't matter anymore because the organizers blew it. They screwed it up. The messaging now throughout the media and throughout the public is that these guys are a bunch of racists and they're going to have a hell of a hard time gathering people to come out to future rallies and things like that because they don't want to be associated with it. I wrote about this a couple of months ago because I went to a couple of rallies in Calgary. I wanted to see the public standing up. I did want to see them pushing back. I want to see them taking to the streets and saying we've had enough of this crap. But both times that I went, and again, I met some great people there. I mean, there's some rational people, but it was dominated by nutcases, conspiracy theorists, you name it. I mean, I had a guy literally at the Calgary one talking to me about the lizard people. You're not gonna hit that critical mass of public support if you're gonna keep that as front and center. I mean, hey, people have the right to all of their opinions, and rallies will draw people with some very outside opinions. That's natural. But until you get that tipping point of sane people overwhelming the lunatics, you're not gonna gain any ground whatsoever. So what had happened in Edmonton, though, was that the rally organizers, somebody said, let's all carry tiki torches lit during this rally, and now. Tiki torches have become a symbol of white nationalism. I'm not even talking as innocuously as that ridiculous 4chan thing with the OK sign or such. No. This came about, and some people on Twitter saying, I never knew about that. Well, okay, fine. You were under a rock during the August of 2017 when the Charlottesville rally and riots made international news for weeks. And those things were represented by the tiki torches. I know the torch itself is just an innocuous little decoration, it's fine. But now it's changed. And when it's used to walk in front of a rally, its meaning changes dramatically. And don't try to tell me that the leaders of that rally, not a single one of them knew what those represent. And why they decided to put those up front to completely erase any messaging about the lockdowns, I have no idea. But they killed it, they screwed it up, and they ruined it. But what's getting me is people making excuses for it. Guys, don't make excuses for this. Learn from this. I don't care if it's right or wrong that it got tarred because of the carrying of these torches. You've killed the movement. It's not going to move. Are you going to carry them every time now as a matter of principle? That's fine until you dwindle down to about 24 of you out there. You got to accept that this was a terrible move on the part of the organizers, and it just screwed everything up. So let's get some background. So Charlotte's, not everybody watches a lot of news. Fair enough and fine, or they don't remember past events, even if it was just 3 years ago. Some true white supremacists decided to descend upon and rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. They were going to take down a statue of Robert E. Lee, and Richard Spencer, who was an organizer, again, of white supremacists, wanted to rally in defense of it. True white nationalists, and I don't want to get into the whole debate of whether you preserve statues or not, or people have a right to defend them. Fair enough, but guys like Spencer and that, as I've said, white nationalists are as rare as hen's teeth. But when you're in a country with hundreds of millions like the United States, that still, even with 0.1%, means you got some hundreds of thousands of real heavy-duty racists out there. And when there's the ability to organize them on the internet and gather them in one spot like Spencer did, which still was only a few hundred of them or whatever, it can be really problematic. So he gathered them there. And they began, the nights of the rallies, with circling the statue, and they're all carrying tiki torches. So some people say, well, what? They're just a bunch of white boys carrying tiki torches. Yeah, it wasn't just that, though. So that was their symbol. That's what they chose as their march, and for whatever reason, fine. At this point, they're just tiki torches. But you get closer and no, these guys are the real thing. They're the real deal. They chanted as they marched. And again, it wasn't cooked in. It's not a conspiracy. They were chanting, "Jews will not replace us." These are neo-Nazis. These are the hardcore. These are the real thing. There's not a lot of them, but when they can get together in one spot, they're really disgusting to behold. And they were out that night in force with that. So, yeah, people say, well, the same item can mean two different things. So this is a tiki torch around a little gazebo with people out for a night. And you know what? You can still use them for that, because then again, I get those moronic arguments. So should I never ever buy a tiki torch again or use one again? Sure you can. Do it like that. Nobody has a problem. Nobody thinks about it. But if you want to go marching with one, you're going to be called a friggin' Nazi. It happened. It doesn't have to be fair. That's just reality. If you're going to go traipsing around at a protest, blame Richard Spencer, blame these guys. But they've changed the meaning of tiki torches at rallies and marches to something completely different. The same item can be used for two things and mean completely two different things. So don't throw those moronic arguments out about, if I buy one at Home Depot, I'll be charged as a neo-Nazi. I have one in my garage. Am I a Nazi? No. But if you march at a thing after hearing this, yes, you are. Because, come on, what do you think it's going to be interpreted as? Really? What do you think? The media, and yes, you hate the media. Hey, I'm not big on the mainstream media either, rest assured. And they love to pounce on things like this. So why throw them red meat? Why give them such an easy target to dismiss the entire rally? Dismiss all the people who did take the time out of their day to show their concern about the lockdowns. And it was totally lost because nobody's talking about the lockdowns. All they're talking about is the morons who were marching in the front carrying the torches. And again, not every one of them carrying the torches was necessarily a moron. The organizers who were coming up with this, they probably handed out a bunch to a lot of people, and some people didn't realize what these stand for. So sure, I'll carry it, I'll walk around with it. But there's no excuse for the guys who were heading it. They damn well knew this is a bad symbol. I mean, again, let's look at the same thing. Here's a pillowcase. Totally innocuous, harmless piece of cotton. But if you want to fold it up and cut eye holes in it and wear it, suddenly that same little piece of cotton turns into something completely different. Doesn't mean you can't go to Bed Bath & Beyond, which I wouldn't because they don't like our oil sands, and buy pillowcases, and it doesn't mean you're suddenly a Klan member. But if you're going to change it to that, then yes, actually, it does. So, again, getting to Edmonton, beating around the bush, here they are, the Walk for Freedom, with all their tiki torches in the front. And some people saying torches are common in marches. Bullshit. I've been to a lot of protests and rallies. It's part of what I do, too. I have never seen tiki torches carried at them. And particularly since the Charlottesville event. And it's broad daylight. It's not like you were making an evening appearance to make some neat torchlight parade or something. No, this was a conscious choice, and I don't know why. Maybe they thought that they weren't going to get enough news. And some people saying, it was salted, it was infiltrators, it was people just trying to dismiss it. Well, here's Artur Pawlowski. He's one of the main organizers. He's the guy who's been making the stink. He's been charged multiple times for this. He's a street preacher in Calgary. It's funny because I'm mixed with him, He's, stands up for freedoms, pushes for things. He does feed homeless people out on the street and so on. Good on him. But he's also batshit crazy and he's a homophobe. But either way, he's got the right to march around. And he's the one who's been the rallying point, bringing these people together for these marches. And he's standing with that tiki torch in hand. Don't worry, it's not photoshopped. This was him holding it. One of the heads of the whole thing. So it wasn't a handful of infiltrators who showed up with tiki torches and marched around the crowd. This is the leadership who did it. Now look, you guys were upset with me on Twitter for calling this out. Fine, do you want this to be a hill to die on? Is that what you think is a good idea? To make excuses for this, to talk about how harmless the torch is? It's not harmless. It killed the whole purpose of that march that day. That's not very harmless, is it? And it will kill future ones. So think harder about it. Think about these symbols. I don't care whether it's fair or not. I don't care if it's right or not that these things get labeled as such. You've got to think about these things if you really actually want these things to draw people in general, if you want these marches to be productive, if you want them to become mainstream, because that's the only way the politicians will pay attention, is if they see enough voters getting on the streets and saying, hey, we've had enough of this crap. But most voters aren't going to get out when they see this crap. They're not going to join a bunch of tiki torch carrying morons. And I don't think I really don't know what their rationale was for carrying them. I don't think it was a race-based thing, but now it's labeled as such, and what did they expect? So guys, don't make excuses for the torches. Get them the hell out of there. Don't have neo-Nazis marching in the front of your things, by the way. We had that in the past with a different event I'd gone to. And again, they have the right to go out and be idiots, but if you're going to have literal skinheads at the front of your march, guess what? You're going to lose whatever messaging you had in it. So I just had to get that out of me. Guys, I oppose the lockdowns. I support these marches, or I want to, but I can't and I won't when this crap's going on in it. Don't make excuses for it. Fix it.